flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, are there additions to the agenda?
Two. One, request to add the resolution for mediation as discussed in closed session, and then request to add the right-of-way permit for the biogas line discussion to number 6.
With those additions, Madam Chair, I move to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Motion and second to approve the amended agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there any public comment? If you guys are here for the drainage issues, we'll let you talk when that comes up.
Yep.
So, okay. And we need to approve the minutes from the 7/16 meeting.
Motion approved.
Second.
Okay, motion and second to approve the July 16th minutes as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Liberty.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So in closed session this morning, we did discuss procurement. Stevens County Human Services has received the results of procurement. If you remember back in July, the board had signed a resolution for Primus to be a single payer within that. Within procurement, that was not chosen, so we do have an option to move to mediation. So I'm coming to you this morning to ask and recommend that we move towards mediation due to the results of the procurement, and then also that we obtain Lockridge, Gringo, and all to represent us in that mediation process.
Do you want two motions, two separate things? Or,
I think we can do one because that resolution does.
Madam Chair, I move the resolution and the, to have Lockridge, Grindle, and Nunn represent us.
Okay.
I'll second.
Motion and second to pass the resolution and have Lockridge, Gringo, and Nunn represent us in the mediation with PHS over the procurement. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Libby. You. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm also here to have a resolution signed. I need a resolution signed for the state of Minnesota to receive my County Veteran Service Officer Operational Enhancement Grant. And hopefully, the resolution is there in front of me. This is, I've been here for 16 years, and there's always been some type of grant program to help. But since 2013, has been this ongoing revolving $7,500. That amount is garnished by the state by, they have a big pot of money, and they look at counties and their veteran population, and then they did math upwards. So the more veterans you have, the larger your grant. So we are at the minimum grant amount.
All right, is there a motion?
I move to have the grant accepted.
I'll second.
Motion and second to approve the CVSO enhancement grant from the state of Minnesota in the amount of $7,500. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll go to Cook County and do the same.
Okay. Stephanie.
Get you a
Good morning. See you come in. Good morning.
Okay. I'll get you one and just sit down and guys.
Packet are the auditor warrants for review. And Ron, I did change the one for the vehicle. The environmental services vehicle will be charged out of the buffer department. So that one has been changed.
So I see one in here for Morris Oswald, but we're not approving these, correct?
No,
Okay.
these, no.
Are there any questions for the auditor, Janice?
Okay.
Thank you.
Next is a resolution to call in the last two maturities for the Stevens County 2014A bond on County Ditch 30. The estimated amount to pay off the principal and interest would be $321,213.33. By calling in these two last years, there's the potential savings of $110,961.67.
That's on the total bond payment?
Yeah,
Or the
yes.
savings would be that much?
It's the savings by paying these two, you're saving that. We would have paid, if we wouldn't have called them in, $432,000 on those 2 years is what we would have paid by not calling these in. So you have the savings of paying that now. You have the savings of $110,916.
So the ditch system is saving that money?
Yes, the ditch system will save that money. After everything is paid, whatever is left will stay in that ditch system. Yep.
Then the savings are appropriated out depending on how much ditch you have, or how does each farmer get?
It'll just stay in the ditch,
Oh,
so
the
that
ditch fund.
future
Okay.
years, we won't
I
have
got
to
it.
assess
They have to
for that,
It's not a-
for that
it's not a
ditch.
dividend or return or anything,
No,
just-
no, it just stays in that ditch
So they have
fund.
money to operate on.
Yes,
Okay.
yep. Is there any other questions on that? You can see the current balance on County Ditch 30 right now is $951,366.42. The payment date will be September 10th, is when we would pay this. So I recommend the board to pass the bond call resolution.
Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second to pass the bond call request on County Ditch 32, or 30, excuse me, in the amount of $321,213.33. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Moving on. Back in 2018, Amanda had brought a voting equipment grant agreement that was approved and signed by the county. The state of Minnesota, through the Office of the Secretary of State, have amended that grant agreement and pushed out the expiration date to March 31st of 2020. It was set that we would have had to send back any unspent funds as of August 31st of this year. So they are extending that to all the counties, that you don't have to send back any unspent money until March 31st of 2020. As of right now, I don't have any plans of spending any more of the grant, but we'll see.
Do we have any unspent?
Yes, we do. We have $9,453.50. So we'll just hold on to it, and something might come up that we may need to get something. So I have a motion to approve the amended voting equipment grant agreement, please.
I'll make a motion to approve
Okay,
that.
is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and second to approve the voting equipment grant agreement amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, Steph.
How many of these 200s will we have now still?
We have none. Yeah,
You're set.
yeah, we're set.
Especially with 3 left. Oh, it'll be mailed in battle out of it, 3 left.
All right. Bill?
Good morning.
Good morning.
The resignation of Knut Christensen left a vacancy on the Board of Adjustment. And our county zoning ordinance indicates such board shall consist of 2 members of the planning commission and 1 member, not a member of the planning commission, excluding any elected officer of the county or employee of the county board of commissioners. At least 1 member of the board of adjustment shall reside in the area of the county outside the corporate limits of a municipality. At the July 22nd planning commission meeting, the commission membership recommended that the county board appoint Tom Westmeister to the board of adjustment. Current members are Ward Voorhees and Jeff Boyle, regular members, and Rob Copels, the alternate. Ward and Rob are both outside of any city limits, and so is Tom. He's just outside the city limits of Morris. So the recommendation is that you appoint Tom to the board of adjustment.
Madam Chair, I'll move that Tom Westmeister be put on the Board of Adjustment.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Motion and second to nominate, or to appoint Tom Westmeister to the Board of Adjustment. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Jan? Good morning.
Well, just a quick staffing update. It was approved at the last meeting, the hire of 2 intermittent part-time dispatchers instead of the 1 regular part-time. We also hired 10 individuals as jury attendants to be on the on-call list of the Sheriff's Department. Those individuals are retired employees Deb Brunko and Vicki Day, and also citizens Eileen Bliss, Ron Sharstrom, Pamela Lent, Patricia Shannon, Peggy Kill, Ann Williams, Claire Exner, and Robin Lampert. They were trained with the court administrator on July 17th, and we started them at grade 12, step 5.
So we need a motion to approve that list.
I'll make a motion to approve the list presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second to approve the list presented as the jury attendants for the on-call. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. We have our advertising for the deputy sheriff investigator position. Haven't had a lot of applicants yet, so we're still working.
When does that close?
It closed.
It closed already? Okay.
So not a lot. Four. Okay.
We're talking about next steps with the sheriff, if that's a sufficient pool or not. You know, that's quite a bit less than what we've seen for any of the positions, so we're concerned about getting an adequate pool to interview, so.
So the next I have is the hands-free wireless communication device policy, which is in response to the new legislation that came effective August 1st, which prohibits the use of any electronic device while operating a vehicle. There are exceptions. Law enforcement, emergency response personnel may use a cell phone. Citizens may use a cell phone if they're calling in a 911 call. Heavy equipment operators may use only hands-free devices. We're all able to use a hands-free device too, but it has to be attached with the Bluetooth or with the electronic. Heavy equipment operators may use a radio in addition to a Bluetooth hands-free device. So the policy then was some suggested language from AMC, and it does address those issues by using heavy equipment, hands-free device paired with cell phones. It addresses that supervisors can prohibit employees from carrying wireless communication devices and who gets to carry one and when for what purpose. It also states very clearly that in the event that an employee of the county on county business, whether it's their personal vehicle or county vehicle, if they're caught with using a cell phone to their ear or texting while driving, they are then liable themselves as individuals, and the county is not. And then they would also be subject to disciplinary action that was appropriate. Is there any questions?
So I know our policy for, I'm just thinking heavy equipment operator right now. So our policy is to be hands-free, but does the law for heavy equipment operators,
Yes. They
is
also must be
it the law hands-free also?
Hands-free
Or
for heavy
operator?
equipment operators, with the exception of the radio. So any electronic device other than radios is hands-free for equipment operators. Sheriffs have full exemption. They can use cell phones and radios. Under the law, those equipment operators can only use radios.
Or hands-free device.
Or hands-free device, sorry, yeah. We changed, I think you mentioned that, we changed that in there so that, while operating equipment, all use of hands-free devices paired with cell phones remain at the discretion of the supervisor. Too, just so that you guys are aware of that even though if they're using hands-free, it could be permitted, it's still gonna be at the discretion of the supervisor if that's the most safe and efficient way to conduct business.
All right, is there a motion?
I'll move the hands-free wireless policy.
I'll second.
Motion and second to approve the 20.1 Stevens County hands-free wireless communication device policy. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you, Jen.
Morning, Todd. Come on, come right on.
Walked right in the door, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess just to start out, give you an update on maintenance. Maintenance has started at full width mowing, beginning in the southeast corner of the county this year. I think we talked about wild parsnip already this year, that's a problem, and started spraying early in July. And spraying is supposed to be more effective than mowing. We're also continuing to gravel, of course, blade roads, other seasonal work. We've also been purchasing and hauling some clay from various locations to the Wolf Pit. We'll be doing our fall crushing project, starting that here soon, anticipation of that. The guys also today, they're hauling some clay down to the landfill for Bill. And it sounds like it's a little bit of a circus, it's pretty wet. We had to get an excavator in to load the trucks, so, but they're working at it, they're gonna get it done, it's a good deal, it's gonna be good for the landfill, so. They're also finding and doing culvert repairs pretty much countywide. Most of them are separations, and most of them we're able to do ourselves. We've also got of course, the FEMA money, the FEMA projects here that we're kind of waiting on, to see where we come out on that. For engineering, Riley Brothers Construction did the countywide patching here this last week, and it is completed, along with some smaller patches. If you go across that patch on County Road 8, the one way out west or the one to the east of 59, they ride really nice. Probably one of the best patches I've seen. I came across it with a trailer with my own vehicle over the weekend, and you see that black patch coming, and you kind of brace yourself, you go right across it. It's really nice, they did good work. They also did the milling and overlay on County Road 78, which is up by the Apostolic Church. We ran into a little bit of a issue there. They had a funeral the morning that we were working on it. So we ended up with, talking to some people from the church, and Joe Riley, Joe actually came out that morning and made sure everything went smoothly, and they accommodated the church as much as they could for that funeral. But that's the way it goes. County Road 70 also, over the culvert that we did last year, that's paved, so Vicki wanted us to go to her driveway, but John helped
Held firm, huh?
much as we'd like to. For administration, 1219, Just a little background, I think everybody's probably aware of this, but just to give you a little update, I did issue a permit to John Gall, Corey Knoll to install a drain tile short distance down the right of way in Casat 10. And that's between two U.S. Fish and Wildlife properties, their main office and then the property to the west. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Office contested our authority to issue the permit within our right of way, which is held in easement. They actually came out and told Corey that he had to stop with the tiling, so Corey did. He held off. County Attorney Jordan was off at some meetings there. I did consult with Rinky Noonan, and John Cold ended up drafting a memo, which I sent to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Office. And ultimately, he determined that the county did have the authority to issue that permit. They went up and got the deed for him, and also found an easement on that piece of property. On the whole area of County Road 10, we have a recorded easement on that piece of property. That was a question for whatever reason. And what it really came down to is that in the deed, it said that the Fish and Wildlife Office was subject to any existing road easements, recorded or unrecorded. I think that's really what made the difference there. And I did ask John too, I said, you know, is there something we should be looking at when we come to get these easements? You know, look out for our rights as a road authority in the future. And he said, well, they can't take those easements off. The easements are transferred from owner to owner, the way I understand it, if that's right.
That's right.
Yeah, so there's, I guess we drew a line in the sand, we knew we were right. And,
So those easements go with the property, not with the person then?
Yeah,
Correct.
goes with the parcel. So, we did have to spend a little bit of money on that, and we're splitting that. John Gallo, landowner, said that he'd split any legal expenses with us there. We have not gotten a bill for it yet, so.
So does that pertain to all the right-of-ways then, or just certain ones?
Well, any easement that was established prior to any kind of agreement with the DNR should run with the land.
Okay.
Any.
So if it was purchased, okay, yeah, got it.
It's been an issue in both
Yeah, I know.
Bridgestone and Stevens County here recently. And I also found a DNR property over there that's draining into a county ditch system, and they're not assessed. And I don't know, for whatever reason, we just have a lot of issues with those agencies here lately.
Well, that was the reason why we felt like it was important to get that legal
Yeah.
Opinion issued, and hopefully that'll
Yeah.
be better in the future.
Yeah, we're learning as we go with so many things, that's the case. Also following the WMA, Alberta WMA meeting on 7/23 with the DNR and county officials, I did forward all the pictures and short descriptions of all the locations in Big Stone, Stevens County to Assistant DNR Commissioner Bob Meyer. I also included Representative Backer and Senator Westrom. Bob Meyer did request that I send those to him. And I've also forwarded some information also with this USFWS to Grant Kirkendall. He's a staff ag assistant to Colin Peterson's office. And that was at Mr. Kirkendall's request. So, along with that Alberta WMA meeting, I did talk to Emily. Emily had a little different take on the process. She thought we had to set up that meeting for the site visit. And then, I would submit an MPARS permit. I said, well, from what I remember from Nathan's discussion, that we would submit the MPARS permit, and then in there, I'd have some kind of language that the runout elevation is gonna be determined for the site visit. Well, she didn't agree with me. I did check with John, because I thought, well, I must have misunderstood. John had the same understanding as me, so I'm gonna have to call Nathan. I just haven't gotten around to it here yet this week. They requested it.
So, is the county doing the permit for that, or does the landowner have to do the permit?
Well, that's another question. I guess I thought I had a permit for it. But, along with that, my first question to Emily is, do we have to go out and try a survey, get a profile of that? And her answer was, well, the DNR already profiled it, if you trust our survey, which I think we'd probably like to go out and do our own survey. So I'll have to contact the landowners for that too. But John certainly did go out and do that survey too. I'll have to give Nathan a call and run through that whole
He said for you to apply for the permit, but you needed landowner's approval,
Yeah, we need.
right, prior to
That was the
work?
way I understood it that day too.
Yeah, I think you're right on, and site visit should be in
Yeah.
your permit application.
But it's probably a process that maybe none of us have gone through yet, so we'll probably have some things ironed out.
We should probably try to meet with the landowner prior to doing the permit,
Yeah, yeah,
maybe, if you get a hold of me.
sure, yeah, we'll do that. The next item here, I guess Brian and I, we've been talking with Midwest Machinery. We did get a 6170 leased for this year, a tractor lease, as you probably already know. Or remember, we own 2 of our Batwing mower tractors, and we usually lease one. And we had a 6140 or 6130 last year. It was a little small, so we wanted a 6150 or 55. He found us a 6170, which is a little larger for the same price. We have that tractor for this year. But Tyler had mentioned, he thought it'd probably be a good idea for us to do a 3-year tractor lease, 300 hours. Normally we have 200 hours per year we can put on. And he said he'd bump it up to 300 hours. Me and Brian are kind of questioning whether that extra 100 hours is useful to us. If we use it in the spring for shoulder work, we're probably gonna be kind of reluctant to put too many hours on it, because we're gonna be saving it for mowing anyway. So he did give us some prices on that, and they're a little higher than what we've been paying in the past, so we're gonna look at that again. And there is also a buyout option at the end, but we might even be better off just looking at purchasing a tractor, because they are pretty low priced right now. There's a lot of them in the marketplace, so that'll be kind of to continue. I mentioned this yesterday at the 2020 budget workshop that we were looking at, and we also put into the 2020 budget a 5-year municipal lease with a buyout at the end for a front end loader to replace our 1997 Cat. We're looking at our long-term equipment replacement schedule. Brian had concerns, especially on our 2020 blade, that we'd be holding on to it too long. We did have a lot of expenses with it this year, and it had quite a bit of downtime. And we might be just running up too many hours on some of those blades when we want them to perform in the wintertime, especially for snow removal. So this would be a way to work that front end loader replacement into our equipment schedule without taking out our major equipment. And our major equipment would be either a motor grader or a tandem every year, just to keep them in that 8 to 14 year range for replacement on those larger items. So we did check, and we did get a quote from Case. I did talk to Cat also, but it's going to be probably a little bit less than what I budgeted for you, around $41,000 a year for 5 years. And then we would own it at the end. Also earlier this spring, we had discussed a front mounted blower for one of our existing 6155 tractors. Big Stone and MnDOT have been using this style of blower, and had pretty good success with it. The cost was around $30,000, and we have about $30,000 left in our equipment budget for this year. But it was consensus of the board to wait till August to decide on that item. I did kind of look at Julie run an expenditure guideline. And looking at where we are right now, our total equipment, maintenance, and shop, we're at about 59%, going into August here of our budget we've spent. But our overall budget, our overall road and bridge budget, we're about 20% over. Considering the winter we had, that's probably reasonable. Some of those repairs that we've already done might be covered by FEMA, so we might have some FEMA funds coming back in. I guess it depends on how you wanted to look at it. We do have room in the equipment budget, our equipment maintenance and shop. We're doing pretty good there. But overall, I mean, the numbers don't lie. We're at 20% over, where we would be projected. With that being said, we probably had the bulk of our expenses in January, February, March. Now we've got some mowing and some blading. Hopefully we don't have a bad December, meaning bad snow. November, December we could, but most likely we're over our heavier expenditure months back there. So I guess I was just wondering if the board would like, we could have Brian bring that back up here at the next board meeting. Or wanted to hold off on that some more.
Didn't you have, when you presented this a couple months ago, didn't you have extra money in your equipment purchase?
We do, yep, and we still
Budget?
do, yep, we've got about 32,000 left in the equipment budget. So we're doing good there, but I think the consensus of the board was, you know, we're not gonna be using it over the summer anyway, it's a snow blower. Let's kind of just hold off and see where we are, you know, toward the end of the summer. And we still do have time to order this and get it installed. You know,
Before
that's not
the
a
next
problem.
snow season.
Geez, I hope so.
Hopefully we have time.
I hope we do. And you know, if you purchase this, it'd just be typical, you probably won't use it all winter, you know, we might not use it for the next 5 years, but we had them come in, you know, our big snow goes that we put on the front of our front end loaders, we had, I think it was a fair, he stopped by and he had one, and it was on the trailer, and it's really a nice unit, it's self-contained, has its own engine, you know, and they're a little, you know, they're way nicer than ours. Ours are, I think, a 96 and a 2004 or something like this. So this one was brand new, and he had a special that day, $105,000 for that unit. And he said he had 5 left. He said after that, the new ones are gonna be about $120,000, which I still think is a pretty good price. I thought they were up around 200,000. But, you know, here we could get this set up and use an existing tractor for about $30,000, you know, versus $120,000. So, and they do work really well. You know, we've seen at the stages, they like them. Big Stone put one on. They had the snow blower already, so all they had to buy was the hitch last year. But they had pretty good luck with it. They did break the drive shaft at the end, the PTO shaft, but the tractors, they seem to go down into the ditch bottom. You can back out on the inslope, and they perform a lot better than I thought they would. So we could either hold off for a little bit longer, and still have time to put this on this winter yet, or I could have Brian get an updated quote and bring it to the next board meeting for your review.
What are the board's wishes?
Yeah, it's gonna snow someday.
Yes, it is.
Well, and the
I
issue,
wanted to wait till then.
the issue we had this year, we had 3 blowers. You know, we pulled our old snow blower, truck mounted blower out also. So we have the two that are mounted on wheel loaders, and then that truck mounted one. And I don't think we had all 3 blowers running for more than 5 or 6 hours. And then one would break down, and that's the way they are, you know. My mechanic over in Big Stone said they're like a snowmobile, you know, you play with them for a couple hours and you fix on them for about 8 hours. We also put quite a bit of money into our older one. We broke the chain that drives all the augers, and along with the chain, for some reason they changed the design of the chain, couldn't order it anymore. We had to buy all new sprockets. Of course, when you buy sprockets, you might as well put in bearings. We spent about $3,000 on that unit this winter, and that was down for quite a while at that time. You know, so they're a high maintenance item. And we don't want to be caught without one when we need it. That's the other thing.
Well, if you think we're gonna do it, there's no use putting it off, I guess.
Is that a motion?
Well, I think they gotta bring quotes.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
we'll
They
get
gotta
the
bring
quotes,
quotes
we'll get
back
some
and then-
updated
right.
quotes and,
Bring us the copy of the budget, what's left in that,
yeah.
budgeted for the equipment.
For the equipment, yeah, I've got that here. We were just looking at it this morning, so that won't be a problem.
You do get a break on the snow blower in July or August.
Yeah. You would think so, but I don't know. The only other issue we had, I guess, I don't know if we wanted to discuss the pipeline where we are sitting.
Yeah, I added that on for discussion. Do you want to do the 5-year plan first?
Oh,
And then we
5-year
could.
plan, yep. that was
Let's do
an
that,
add-on.
and then let's do the right-of-way update for the permit.
Yep, and sometimes I think, you know, especially with me being new, I've gotten a little bit lax on bringing this 5-year plan to be updated for you, but what we've always done over in the Big Stone is right before budget time, get that 5-year plan updated. And actually over there, they have a 5-year plan meeting. I don't know if the board would be interested in that, having it as a separate meeting. But they have it usually after the initial board meeting, have it at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then we do cover some other road and bridge issues there too, less
So are there changes on this from last year, one we approved a year ago? I thought we approved one last year.
Well, we approved that one last year. I think we moved some seal coats up, is the only thing we've changed. You know, for 2020, we still have the grading on Passat 1 on North of Hancock. We're doing the tuna seal coats on 1, 4, and 22, which I don't think have changed. I guess looking forward, 5 and 20, I think we moved those seal coats up. We went to a MnDOT meeting, and MnDOT is saying that you need to do those seal coats within the first year or two. Typically, we've always said about 5 years down the line, you start to see, you know, you diminish the fines and the oil in the top layer, and then you resurface it, you know, you crack fill it, you grind it, crack fill it. MnDOT is saying that you're losing a lot of your material in that first year. When it gets out around 5 or 6 years, they said you might as well not even seal coat it anymore because you're not holding any more of that material in there. So we're trying to find a happy medium and also trying to play catch up, you know, if that's going to be our new plan, and try to do a few of these earlier. So we moved 5 and 20 up here to next year, or they'll be 2 years old at that time. I think 8 and 13, we moved those up. 4, I think that was in there. County Road 1, that was in there for last year. So no, not a lot of changes actually. 18, we still have that grade widening. That's that 2024. We pushed that back a few times the last couple of years, just because other projects have bumped it back. But that's a bad road. That's in need of grade widening. So. So we're set. I can go through more of that if you want. It's up to you.
Can you disapprove, Todd?
Yep, that's what I was looking for.
I'll make a motion to approve the 5-year plan from post 5-year road improvement, bridge improvement plan.
I'll second.
Motion and second to approve the proposed 5-year road and bridge plan for 2020 to 2024. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
And even though it is a 5-year plan, we'll bring it back next year and have you do any changes or anything else that we have there. So I guess, yeah, that brings us to the RDF Stevens pipeline, and kind of where we are right now. We've been going back and forth quite a bit on some different items. We had a question about the legs down on 4, who really had the right of way, who owned those legs. Initially, we thought it was the township. Going back and looking at some of our old hand-drawn plans in the shop, it kind of does look like it's the county's, even though we don't have anything on paper that says that we have an easement or that we have a right of way there. The township also doesn't want it, so they're not contesting it. So, you know, with that in mind, it does look like those two spurs, those two legs, they just ripped as leg 1 and leg 2 on the plan, that those are the counties, but we can only assume 33 feet there. We actually went out and measured, and I mean, we're not even maintaining 33 feet there. It would go about 4 rows into the field to measure out 33 feet. We also had a little bit of an issue right south of the dairy, where there's a garage that was left in the right of way. It was grandfathered in. They had drawn it up, jumping up into the inslope, and you know, that's something we're not comfortable with. You know, having the pipeline in the inslope. The inslope is reserved for centerline culverts, signposts, you know, that sort of thing.
There's a picture of that. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yep. So that, my suggestion to Andy was, you know, if you can go just on the backside or the front of that garage. Well, initially we said, can you just bore under the garage? And they didn't like that idea, having a pipeline under the garage, under a structure, which I agree with. The latest was that they were gonna jump across the road and run linearly down the west side and then jump back to the east side. The reason why they can't stay on the west side is because there's a natural gas pipeline going in there that's coming from town, going out to feed the digesters. It's a 6-inch line. And earlier I talked to the Madagasco inspector. He called me up, and the reason why he called me that day was to tell me that, you know, initially on their plan, they were gonna stay on the outside 5 feet of the right of way. He said, I'm gonna have to jump in. I think there's a 70-foot right of way there. He said, I'm gonna have to bump into 57 feet. he said, because of the way that the fiber optic line is. He said it jogs, weaves in and out, going around rocks or whatever. And I said, well, what does that mean? He said, well, it means I'm still in the back slope. But he said, I just wanted to let you know I'm coming into 57 feet. So that's, I guess that's okay, you know, whatever you have to do. When they jump across here, they jump in and they're staying at 47 feet from the center line. I went out and measured it yesterday, and that puts them right in the bottom of the ditch. And, you know, not being a pipeline guy, you know, I don't know if that's a good thing or not. It seems bad to me to have that in the bottom of the ditch because it's a wet area. Of course, we also do some ditch cleanouts, you know, sometimes there's some excavations in that area. I'd rather have it in the back slope. You know, that being said, the ditch bottom is better than having it in the inslope. But we've never had this kind of issue, I guess, with public utilities. They always stay in the back slope. Or, you know, the other suggestion could be to go outside, you know, and go around the whole thing, the private, you know, easement, go around the back there. So, yeah, I guess at the end of the day, we haven't really come to a.
This is the only really outstanding
Yeah,
issue.
There's only a couple of
that-
small issues there.
So AMP requested that this get moved forward at this meeting for their right-of-way permit. They have crews that are ready to install here at the end of August. And they'd like to get construction started so that they can get most of it in prior to winter. So there was the three issues. It was a township, I don't remember anymore.
I think we
So you got all
resolved that
those, and so
township
this is it. So Todd and I wanted to bring it forward and just, you know, there, a couple of things, you know, like Todd and I discussed yesterday, he could condition that right-of-way permit and say, you know, the preference is that you try to negotiate an easement with the private landowner first. Second option would be to go across the road, right? And then, but that, you know, prior to final installation, that needs to be signed off on by the engineer. That would be really our only solution today, if the board is comfortable with that. If the board isn't, then we'd have to try to still get it resolved before the 20th of August and try to bring it back at that board, right, Todd?
Yeah.
Yeah, because, yeah.
Yeah, the other question I had is for Andy, and I haven't asked him this, is that I don't know that this has gone really through, it hasn't gone through full engineering. This is just the survey that we're looking at, alignment-wise.
Yeah.
You know, and if you did install it, say in the inslope or in the ditch bottom, when it comes time for your pipeline engineer to sign off on it, he might say, no, I don't want it there. And if you've already installed it there, I don't know. It's a little bit of getting the cart in front of the horse.
Did the engineers see the route before?
I don't know if they have or not. I don't know
I mean,
how far
I would-
through engineering he's had
I would
this.
think he'd talk to the engineer to see if the route was agreeable before they start.
That's not really our problem.
No.
That's their problem.
Yeah,
But, you know, all we gotta do is approve the.
Other than, you know, I mean, if something, you know, they don't have their MnDOT or their DNR permits, they're working on those, which isn't really a problem for us unless they don't get them. I mean, the worst case scenario is they'd have some pipeline that's in the ground already. But, you know,
I guess-
there's quite a bit, there's some small details in there too that need to be worked out. Just road labels, you know, small things like that should have been corrected by now, but just haven't been.
So if they go across here and go stay at the 47 feet and then back over, are you gonna be comfortable with that?
Well, I'd rather not have it in the ditch bottom.
Yeah, no, but it's not, right now it's one of the only options.
It's one of the options, yeah.
One of the two options.
Yeah. I really honestly don't know enough about pipelines to know whether that's allowable or not. We could check with a consultant like WSB, I guess, and get their opinion on
Yeah,
it.
but that's not our problem. All we're doing is issuing the right-of-way permit. That's their problem, whether the pipeline people say that's a good spot for it or not. Isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, they have to submit their final
Right.
construction plans to the pipeline safety.
all we're doing is issuing the permit with the
Yeah.
route, proposed route.
Right.
But we do have guidelines even for our public utilities that they stay in the back slope. You know, there maybe is some pipeline in the ditch bottom, I'm just not aware of it. But
If they cross the road though, they're gonna be in the back slope, right?
if
it's
they
a-
cross the road, they're in the bottom of the ditch.
They are, okay, because the center line's line.
Well, there's just not enough room in the right of way over there for any more utilities. You know, we've got the natural gas pipeline for this project going in, then we've got fiber optic, there might be some underground power over there too. And then they would be the furthest inside, so they would be in the ditch bottom. Unless, for some, you know, unless they could go out, I mean, you could take out probably 20 feet of trees and grub out there. Yeah, I'm not sure what other utilities are in there. I don't know why they chose 47 feet either. You know, if they're trying to stay so far off of the fiber optic line or so far off the natural gas line, I guess I don't have details on how they chose 47 feet.
I still think I'm still tempted to see if you put a condition on there and tell them to try to obtain a private easement first would be, and then, because of those issues.
Yeah, and it's just, it's something that we've never dealt with our public utilities. They always stay on the back slope, or they find a way to keep it out of the ditch bottom or in slope, you know.
But we have to decide,
Right.
I mean, we can't hold the whole project up
Right.
because of this. I mean, we're gonna have to find a solution. So I'd make a motion with how you stated with the conditions, that they try a private easement first, and,
With an alternate route being
as an
across the
alternate
road.
route, and then if it ends up in the bottom of the ditch, and they can work that out.
And just that final location will be signed off on by the county highway engineer.
Correct.
Because that still gives you control, Todd, to say, nope, it's not, you know what I mean, with that location.
Still talk about it, work through it, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I guess the other two conditions would be the MinDOT easement.
And
No, that.
Those are already in
We don't
the-
have things
Well,
about
that-
that.
that's
nothing to do with
No.
us.
If MinDOT decides to give it to them, fine. If they don't, they'll have to fight with MinDOT.
those are conditions already in the franchise agreement, the CUP.
Oh, that was a franchise
They're in
agreement?
there.
Yeah.
I'll second the motion.
Aaron, do you have anything to add?
I think that's a good way to address it. First, see if they can get that easement, and then hopefully if they don't get the easement, then Todd's got the authority to work with them to put it in the best spot available.
In the meantime, you can, if you want to get a hold of that consultant and see about, asking about it being the bottom of the ditch, that might be a good idea. Get
Yeah.
some more education on it.
That's, you know, there's so many things that we just kind of let go. And it's easy sometimes, and then it ends up being a problem for us later on, whether it's, you know, through construction or maintenance or whatever. But, sure.
Motion and second to have Todd contact RFD Stevens, and with the first choice being easement with private landowner, second choice being across the road, and the final authority left up to Todd. Anything else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thanks.
All right. Randy?
Larry, you wanna go first, or?
No, you're on the agenda.
Just me? He's not on the agenda? Okay. I need Tim with me because I have TBI and I could freeze up with words and stuff.
Sure.
Because my traumatic brain injury from 15, I haven't recovered at all. So this ain't an easy thing for me.
Yes, yeah.
Is this the permit application?
No, this is just our side.
Okay, so,
I think,
so,
Madam Chairman, I think, Todd, you said they were gonna have a copy of it? Of
Yeah, we have a
Boise
copy.
Sewer?
We do.
so before we start, I talked to Troy at Boyd this morning. Permit application for this project has been denied by Boyd Sioux engineers.
Yes.
So do we need anything from you then?
No,
Or not?
not at this point. Not until, they told Vipons that they need to re-engineer it and then bring it back to the Boyd Sioux again. Correct, Larry?
Or I could talk to the commissioners, and if they determine that, see, what we're doing is we're taking the water across the road, and that ditch is 2 feet deeper than the one on the south side,
But the,
or about a foot, whatever.
but the natural flow for part of it is the other direction.
No, it all gets to the same place. It comes into, it goes into a sub-watershed district, which is a little, you know, that's not quite where that's supposed to go. The road runs east and west, and if we pump it down on the
So,
south side,
we'll let the engineers
Yeah.
take care of all that stuff. But
Can I
my
address all
question is, I forgot.
Changing the watershed. Changing the watershed.
Okay, you said that you could go to the commissioners. You mean to the Boyd Sioux watershed?
correct,
Okay, not us.
right.
Okay, so really this subject for us today is a moot point because Todd has the authority to issue the permit for the use of the right of ways. He has the authority given to him by the county board to approve the right of ways, so we don't have to be involved in issuing the permits. So really, as long as that permit has been denied, I don't think we really even need to have a conversation about this.
Well, Madam Chair, he's gonna go and be bringing this back.
To the Boyd Sioux.
To the Boyd Sioux, but we don't know that, and we don't know if their engineer already denied it, and I doubt that the board is gonna go against the engineer's recommendation.
Because I talked
I
to
certainly would not.
Madam Chair, I did talk to Wally Horning, downstream person for this project. He has no problem with them putting it in the county ditch on their side, and he was surprised that they were putting it across. Number two, he said Larry and David could work with him and make all the water go down the middle of his farm with no problem. These guys have not talked to him, and I think they need to talk to Wally Horning, work out a deal. They can outlet it exactly where Dwayne Spear and everybody else outletted it before. And that's what I want to get across to Larry is, it can go a different direction if they talk to the right landowner, but they don't.
Yes.
Madam Chair, again, I'm Tim Kohler, a retired federal and state employee, soils, watershed, all sorts of other experience. Been working in Stevens County for almost 30 years. And here to help Randy a little bit. I think that Mr. Stables, the Commissioner Stables, the issue is that if, in my opinion, is if it comes back to you guys, to the watershed district, basically says, yeah, okay, we'll give you a permit to go underneath or through the county road and outlet into Randy's home farm on the north side of that county road, then we'll be right back here again to explain why Randy is not excited about that and is against that.
And I understand
So,
that,
yeah.
but at this point, there's no sense taking our time and your time to discuss this because the permit's not gonna be issued.
How quick would, Madam Chair, my biggest question is here, last time, I barely caught what they were doing in their Boise Super, if you look, it's just like a little teeny line. I don't know why these people don't talk to us ahead of time of what they plan and stuff, because it's hard for me to come to a board meeting when there is no discussion between landowners what's going on. I mean, Wally Horning, there could have been a lot of
But we're not
stress
in a
off me, but
position,
I'm just saying, it'd be work better if the landowners would talk.
it's not our business to facilitate talks between landowners.
I know.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, I guess at the minimum, if you'd be willing to read through, the stuff that we prepared, and I don't know if they will be able to have access to any of the slides or not, but in case it comes back to you, you can be well aware of Carla and Randy's concerns, crossing the watershed divide, impact on, on his farm, impact on future use of the farm with this cropland and the beginning farmer grazers that are planning to utilize the grass and stuff too. So it would be good to at least make sure you're aware of it. And then also the fairly hot, salty soils there that with water standing on it will basically sterilize the ground. So I would ask each of you to spend a few minutes and at least be aware of that, so that if we have to come back, you're at least aware of, kind of the situation. It's pretty complex and it could really do some damage like it's already occurred to the south of on the south farm. So thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Chair.
Thank you.
I did make a copy of those photos, and then I'll give you this back here, so
Okay.
they'll have that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming. I see he's here.
He
but-
is here. Let me just message him. Tell him we're
He's
ready.
in that,
Oh,
by Aaron's office, I would assume.
would you want to see Pam? Either in Aaron's office or maybe in that office by EOC. I'll pull up some, information while we're waiting on him here. There he is.
Good morning.
Good morning, Tony.
How are you doing?
Good.
Welcome.
You just want me to start in, or?
Sure.
Yep.
Okay, I got three main things we need to discuss, or I would like to discuss with the board. First off, our joint powers agreement. Aaron Jordan's actively been working on that. It's my understanding that should be done here within the next month or so. There has been some restructuring with the county probation offices. In the past, we were sole employees of the judges. The judges hired us, we worked directly for the judges at their leisure, their discretion. There's been some changes that now indicates that that is still the case. However, we are now considered county employees also. It means we have 5 counties here. I've made the motion, I'd like to form a corrections board. And in doing so would be a member from each county commissioners serve on that board along with the 2 judges. So I'd ask the board here in the next coming meetings to, if possible, designate somebody that would be willing to serve on that board. Essentially, the board would consist of approving the newly drafted joint powers agreement and then monitor and approve budgeting from there on out. I anticipate maybe 2, 3, 4 meetings a year to be on that board.
So, excuse me, Tony, that would be a joint powers board then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So there'd be a member from each one of the county commissioners in our 5 counties. We have essentially 3 judges, but we have 2 local judges that serve in our districts that would be a member of that. I've also asked Aaron if he'd sit on that as a legal representative, is that the right terminology?
And I told you, as long as I'm useful to meetings.
Yes. And I don't anticipate these being long, drug-out meetings. Essentially, it would be an update and then approval of budgets from one year to the next. So that's something to consider.
So-
Most of us serve on a lot of joint powers now. I mean, that's a common way of doing business now, so.
And this joint powers has been very efficient from a financial perspective. It's been in place for a number of years. I think we've been operating on an old joint powers agreement, but everybody's been operating under an understanding. And there's been no major conflict. This is something we've been working on to get formally established for some time. And again, I appreciate Aaron for taking the ball and running with that and getting that where it needs to be. So Aaron and I have spoken of possibly getting that first meeting together at the end of August, first part of September. And that would be an opportunity to look over the joint powers and then have a second meeting to approve it, and then a third meeting before the end of the year to establish budgets.
So, Tony, you mentioned that they want you to move towards being an employee of the county. Would the employer of record be the joint powers board then?
It would be.
Okay.
And we plan to keep the fiscal host as Travers, since that's where he's based.
This whole thing came up a number of years back. Some Itasca COP agents wanted to unionize. The judges gave them the ability to look into it, and one thing led to another, and that's kind of been where this whole stems from. The only terminology and the only function that really switches is that it all remains the same as far as working in the capacity for the court. However, it says the director and agent should now be also considered county employees. We have no county home, we have 5 counties we work under, and that salary adjustments will no longer come in the form of a court order. They will be approved by the county board, or in this capacity, the new joint powers board. Yeah. Lastly, I did have my budget again this year. I put in for a second agent or a third agent, second to myself. We already have one agent we just recently hired about, I think he's going on 6 months. I have asked for another agent. This is based in part on a couple things. The state has recently readjusted points. So what the state did is they went and they looked at every county and determined the needs of those counties as far as agents. These are based on juvenile petty offenses, as well as all adult misdemeanor, gross misdemeanor offenses and arrests. I do have here's one piece. So what this form shows here, the one that's circled, there's a number indicating a 6, and you can follow that all the way down the line there according to other counties.
Do you want to give Becky one too?
Oh, sorry. So what the state has done is they've designated a point system, and because the state reimburses our counties approximately 30%, it's supposed to be close, it is supposed to be judicially set at, or legislatively rather, at 30 or 50%, but we've been only receiving a 30% increase from the state. But what they've done is they've said if you have a score of 3 or more, you're eligible for an agent. And looking at this form here, we're at a 6. So technically, according to our caseloads, the region we operate in, the state says, yeah, you're eligible for 2 positions. We're not requesting 2 positions. I am solely considering the opportunity to hire 1 agent. However, there are some other mechanisms in place that may be adjusted, though we don't need that agent. For example, we've asked the court to not put first-time DWI offenders on probation, which are misdemeanor level offenses. And running my numbers from January of last year till now, that made up 56 cases. So by maybe streamlining a few of these lesser level misdemeanor offenses, we can avoid the agent, another agent position. However, there are some additional mandates that have come down that we are required to do. We are now doing bail studies. We are on a rotation with the DOC office. I think it's once every 5 weeks. We take a week, and any new in custodies, we're responsible for generating the reports and sending those to the court. And there's some other possible mandates that may come down, and if that is the case, then we would firmly be requesting an agent position. But I would like the board just to be aware of where we sit in relation to other counties. The nearest county to us that works in a similar capacity of a CPO would be Polk County, that's Glenwood. Kerry Jaworski sitting at a -5. So what that designates is he has more resources over there than where we are at. The other counties that are similar to us, I believe Renville, Mille Lacs County as well, they're also sitting at those higher numbers. So something for the board to consider. I've added this request in the last 2 years, and at the last minute I pulled my funding request for those positions. I've spoken with a few of the county attorneys. I'm kind of making my loop again today to do so up in the northern half. just to see where the considerations lie about maybe not putting some of these people on misdemeanor probation.
So who, the judges have to decide that they won't put those people on probation, or?
Ultimately, you know, as I indicated, I have spoken with the judges. We are in the process of not putting those first-time DWI offenders on probation. If it goes well, we'll continue that process. But like I said, to give you an example, that's 56 cases right now. We currently, between all 5 of our counties, myself and my other agent, Tyrell Wyke, we have 443 adult cases, and we have 84 juvenile cases. So total, and we have 518 cases that we're managing. So the numbers are there. I think that there is a possibility maybe to reduce some of that, but time will tell.
So is that accurate, full-time employees for these counties?
Yes,
Correct?
yes.
Okay.
And in order for, this position is solely for a agent position. There's case aid positions, there's some grant writing positions, some pre-sentence investigation writing positions, but the state will only reimburse that 30% for an agent position.
So Tony, currently we receive 47,000 from the state, correct?
For which?
For your position and Ty's position.
I believe so, yes. I don't have those numbers in front of me on the exact what we're receiving.
So that would be increased if we add a third one?
No.
Your legislator didn't allocate any more money to the
Okay.
CPO fund.
Yeah.
Okay.
And here again, I just looked at it this morning, I think it's state statute 244 or something, it outlines county probation offices. The state's supposed to be giving out 50%, and they haven't. It's only been 30%, and that's been the standard for a number of years. That, of course, if they were providing what they legislatively are supposed to be providing, they could offset considerably more. There are some other mechanisms that could be utilized. I don't know that our courts here are willing to do so. We've talked about supervision fees. We are a county, we have never charged offenders a supervision fee. I know similar counties in our region who are CPO counties, they do charge a supervision fee. Those types of mechanisms, of course, would go to offset positions as well. But that's probably a conversation for further down the road.
And you can see, I pulled up the probation budget history, you can see like that revenue has been between 13.9 and 16.0222, so it hasn't significantly increased at all in the last 5 years. You know, and Tony and I talked a little bit, and I mean, I really encourage the board to leave the full amount and the full request in there until that JPA is formed, and then let that commissioner come back with a recommendation for the final budget. Because if things don't change within that district in terms of caseload, you know, you can see that the numbers support the request. But I think everything would run a lot more efficiently once JPA is in place, and it's gonna help functionally to administer the whole program, to have that board support too.
Well, Tony, it looks to me like some of them counties that have in the point system that have a minus, they might be an employee we could hire.
There was a quick conversation about that.
Yeah, it looks to me like that's the way it should be.
I don't know if they're gonna be so willing to share, so to speak.
Wish it was as easy as transferring them out here, right?
Right. But I just want the board to be aware of that and look at those numbers and see where we're at. I'm on the fence. Right now, we're at that 70–80% mark to need an agent. However, if we can readjust some things along the way, and maybe that's not feasible, but initially now with the DWIs, we're readjusting those. If there's a way to maybe readjust some other ones, we wouldn't need it. But if the trend continues the way we see it, within the next number of years, we definitely will be adding positions. And I think that's kind of been the trend across the state as well. So we will see what happens.
Okay.
We should probably appoint someone to that JPO board.
Yeah, we can do that now.
Is there something you would do?
I mean,
I would, or you want?
Yeah.
You don't have as much, so.
We don't have as many committees, so I'll just appoint Neil to the joint powers for probation.
Very good, thank you.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, Tony.
I'll get you all
So-
contact information.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how, you talk about reducing recidivism. Do you think that having people, first-time DUI folks on probation, do you think that reduces recidivism?
I don't necessarily know if it reduces it. I know that from what we've seen, DWI law is .08. We've been seeing some that are receiving arrests at .085, .089. Individuals with zero criminal history. They almost have all their stuff completed by the time they get to our office. It's a common thing that most counties are not doing anymore. They're not supervising those low-level offenders or DWI offenders. And I think here too, it's worth an opportunity to do that. I would rather focus our supervision time on the controlled substance crimes, the domestic assaults, the more of the person type offenses. So.
Good.
I think that answer your question, about 90% of people who get a DWI will never reoffend again.
Okay.
And then about 5 to 10% will, they're not gonna learn. And they'll be back more than.
No, absolutely.
That number's probably low. It could be higher.
you think it should be higher than 10%?
Right. Okay.
All right, thanks.
Thank you very much.
All right, commissioner reports. We have our per diem sheets, if anybody wants to look at it.
July was slow. CPT. I had emergency service in St. Cloud, passed the budget, kept what we paid is belonged to that the same. Census board, we're having a booth at the fair. It's important that we count everybody. If we don't count everybody and we come up short, we'll lose a representative in the federal government, and it'll come out of our district.
Bob, there's 73 positions open in Stevens County, right?
Yes.
Correct?
We have about 18 applied so far. We need 73 applicants for work in a few jobs now, but in April, we need 70. It'll probably be about 60 people to go around and door to door. Pays $14 an hour. You can set your own hours. You get mileage. It's all done electronically. You send your stuff to Duluth and you get paid. So we'll have that information out at the booth. So we've got to push hard to find. Caitlin, GIS, is really taking a lead in this, and she's doing a great job.
I heard her on the radio.
Yes, yeah, she's, and we're having trouble getting enough people that should be at the table, because it's important to all of us. CPT's going well. Executive board meeting, talk about hiring a business manager. Picked up some more work from counties, so I think we've got that on a good track, so that's about it, I guess.
Yeah, I just had the West Central Initiative and I mentioned that.
Since our last meeting, Chippewa River, we had a meeting. We've contracted with Polk County SWCD to do some of their checkpoints and measuring at the rivers and stuff. They're doing some of that for the grant, for the MPCA grant. We had TAC committee with Human Services. They actually had the mayor from Chicago was at our meeting. They started, Rainbow Riders started inviting more people to come to the meetings, and they were, they had no idea of the services that were provided by Rainbow Riders, so that was kind of interesting. And that personnel committee, and that was about certain items with Human Services.
So I had Historical Society, they've had some events here recently, and Prairie Pioneer Days, they'll have a musical at the, there'll be music starting out on the lawn and then moving inside, it's kind of a fun event. And then Soil and Water, that was just a fairly short meeting, they had to get some things passed. And Palm Beach River, we have that Bowser tour coming up. the
Are you
end of
going
this
on
month. I am.
I'm trying to get on that, but I don't know if I
Okay.
am yet.
Okay,
So I'd like to go.
yep. And then Viking Library, our new director is in place, Erin Smith. She's from the Fergus Falls Public Library. And then we have that DNR meeting out at the Alberta Wildlife, so. All right. Anything else?
Motion to adjourn. I'll second today.
Motion and second, to adjourn the meeting at 10:15. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.